Personality development for men. Build a strong identity using Carl Jung's psychology. What if the version of you that people see every day is not the real you at all? What if your confidence is a mask carefully adjusted depending on who is watching, your anger is a defense system designed to keep people at a distance, and your silence is not wisdom but a hiding place? What if the reason you feel stuck in life, overlooked in rooms full of people, or disconnected even in relationships, is not because you lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because you are divided inside? Most men try to improve their personality by stacking habits on top of habits, memorizing social strategies, optimizing morning routines, and chasing external milestones of success. But very few ever pause long enough to ask the deeper question that changes everything. Who am I beneath the mask? And until that question is honestly faced, confidence will always feel fragile, discipline will always feel forced, and success will always feel strangely empty. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung believed that every man carries hidden layers within him. Layers that contain power and darkness, creativity and fear, tenderness and aggression, shame and enormous untapped potential. And he believed that true personality development does not come from adding new traits like accessories. It comes from integrating the parts of yourself you have ignored, rejected, or buried. Welcome to Cognitive Crown. Today's video is not about surface-level confidence hacks or quick social tricks. It is about identity. And the title of this video is Personality Development for Men. Build a strong identity using Carl Jung's psychology. In this video, you will learn 7 powerful psychological principles that will help you build a strong masculine identity from the inside out. Let's begin. 1. The persona. Before we explore the first principle, understand this. The reason most men feel fake in social situations is not because they are bad at communication. It is because they are living through a mask they forgot they were wearing. Jung called this mask the persona. The persona is the version of you that you present to the world. It is the polite employee who never complains, the calm leader who never shows uncertainty, the funny friend who hides pain behind jokes, the emotionless tough guy who believes vulnerability is weakness. The persona is not evil. In fact, it is necessary. Without it, social life would collapse into chaos. You need a professional face at work. You need composure in public. You need restraint in conflict. The persona helps you function in society. But the danger begins when you start believing that the mask is your entire identity. Many men unconsciously build their whole personality around what is socially rewarded. They suppress softness because they think it makes them weak. They suppress emotion because they think it makes them unattractive. They suppress creativity because they think it is impractical. They suppress doubt because they think it is unacceptable. Over time, they become strangers to themselves. They no longer know what they genuinely enjoy, what they truly feel, or what they authentically believe. And this is where insecurity quietly begins. Because when your identity depends entirely on external approval, your confidence becomes fragile. If people clap, you feel powerful. If they criticize, you collapse internally. If they reject you, your entire self-image shakes. That is not confidence. That is performance. The solution is not to destroy the persona. The solution is to become aware of it. Start asking yourself uncomfortable questions. Who am I trying to impress in this situation? Who am I afraid of disappointing? What traits do I exaggerate to gain approval? Where do I pretend to be stronger, calmer, funnier, or more successful than I actually feel? True personality development begins when you realize that the mask is just a tool. It is something you wear when necessary. It is not who you are. And once you separate yourself from the mask, something powerful happens. You stop performing for the world, and you start becoming real within yourself. That shift alone reduces anxiety, increases authenticity, and builds the foundation for a stronger identity too. The shadow. Now here is a truth most men avoid. The most dangerous man is not the one who is openly aggressive. It is the one who pretends he has no darkness at all. Jung introduced the concept of the shadow. The shadow is the hidden part of your personality that contains everything you reject about yourself. Your anger, your jealousy, your competitiveness, your sexual desire, your hunger for status, your urge for power, your selfish impulses. Most men are taught from a young age to suppress these traits. Don't be angry. Don't be jealous. Don't be aggressive. Be nice. Be calm. Be good. But suppression does not eliminate these impulses. It buries them in the unconscious. And what is buried does not disappear. It leaks. It leaks as passive aggression in conversations. It leaks as sudden rage over small issues. It leaks as silent resentment towards successful friends. It leaks as self-sabotage right before important opportunities. It leaks as guilt around ambition. A strong masculine identity is not built by pretending you are always calm, balanced, and morally pure. It is built by confronting your darker impulses and integrating them consciously. Anger, when understood, becomes assertiveness. Competitiveness, when disciplined, becomes ambition. Aggression, when controlled, becomes protection. Sexual energy, when directed, becomes creativity and drive. When you deny your shadow, it controls you from the unconscious. When you face it, you gain power over it. Start noticing what triggers you emotionally. Why does someone else's success irritate you? Why does criticism hit you harder than it should? Why do certain personality types instantly frustrate you? Often, the traits that irritate you in others reflect parts of yourself you have disowned. If you hate arrogance, perhaps you fear your own desire for recognition. If you judge weakness harshly, perhaps you are ashamed of your own vulnerability. Shadow work requires brutal honesty. It requires admitting that you are capable of selfishness, envy, manipulation, and pride. But here is the paradox. The moment you admit it, you become less controlled by it. A mature man does not eliminate his darkness. He studies it. He disciplines it. He channels it. And that control becomes quiet strength. Not loud dominance, not reckless aggression, but grounded power. The kind that does not need to prove itself. 3. Individuation. Here is the uncomfortable reality. If you are living according to someone else's expectations, you are not developing your personality. You are outsourcing it. Jung called the process of becoming your true self individuation. Individuation is the lifelong psychological journey of integrating your conscious identity with your unconscious depths. It is the process of becoming whole. Not perfect. Whole. Most men never individuate. They inherit beliefs from parents without questioning them. They copy lifestyles from influencers without reflection. They chase careers to impress society rather than to express themselves. They adopt political opinions, religious views, and life goals because they were handed to them. And deep inside, something feels off. There is a quiet misalignment. A subtle tension between who they are and who they are pretending to be. Individuation requires courage. It requires questioning inherited values. It requires asking, do I actually believe this, or was I taught to believe it? It requires disappointing people who are comfortable with your old identity. It requires periods of solitude where you detach from constant noise and influence. It requires self-reflection instead of distraction. But it leads to something incredibly powerful. Inner authority. When you individuate, you stop asking the world for permission to exist as yourself. You stop shaping every opinion to avoid conflict. You stop seeking validation as proof of worth. You begin making decisions based on alignment instead of applause. That is when your identity becomes solid. And a solid identity creates natural confidence. Not loud confidence that needs attention. Not arrogant confidence that hides insecurity. Grounded confidence. the kind that does not shake when criticized, the kind that does not inflate when praised, the kind that remains stable whether people approve of you or not. Personality development is not about becoming more impressive to others. It is about becoming more integrated within yourself. Because when you are whole, you no longer need to perform strength. You embody it. 4. The anima and emotional intelligence. Before we enter this next principle, understand something that challenges modern stereotypes. The strongest men are not the ones who suppress emotion. They are the ones who understand emotion without being controlled by it. According to Carl Jung, every man carries a feminine psychological component within him. He called this inner figure the anima. The anima represents emotion, intuition, creativity, empathy, imagination, and psychological depth. It is the bridge between a man's conscious mind and his unconscious world. But many men are conditioned early in life to disconnect from these qualities. They are told that logic is strength and emotion is weakness. They are taught that sensitivity is softness. They are rewarded for toughness and subtly shamed for vulnerability. So they shut down parts of themselves. And when a man rejects his emotional side completely, something dangerous happens. He becomes rigid in his thinking. He struggles to form deep connections. He misreads social situations because he cannot sense emotional nuance. He reacts impulsively instead of responding consciously. He confuses emotional suppression with emotional control. But suppression is not strength. Suppression is avoidance. The rejected anima does not disappear. It simply retreats into the unconscious, and from there, it influences behavior in distorted ways. It shows up as unexplained mood swings. It shows up as emotional dependency on romantic partners. It shows up as obsession, jealousy, and fear of abandonment. It shows up as attraction to chaotic relationships that mirror unresolved emotional wounds. When a man refuses to understand his own emotional world, he becomes controlled by it indirectly. A strong identity requires emotional integration. Emotional intelligence is not about crying more or being dramatic. It is about accurately identifying what you feel and understanding why you feel it. It is about recognizing whether your anger is actually hurt. It is about noticing whether your frustration is actually insecurity. It is about understanding whether your attraction is connection or loneliness. Emotional intelligence also means reading the emotional climate of a room without losing yourself inside it. It means expressing disagreement firmly but respectfully. It means staying calm in conflict without becoming emotionally numb. When a man integrates his anima, he gains balance. He becomes decisive without becoming cold. He becomes assertive without becoming cruel. He becomes compassionate without becoming weak. He listens deeply without losing authority. He leads without emotional disconnection. Emotional maturity is not softness. It is control combined with awareness. And awareness multiplies power because it reduces blind reactions. When you understand your emotions, they stop hijacking your behavior. They become information instead of chaos. And that balance makes your presence feel grounded rather than intimidating or unstable. 5. The hero archetype. Now let's confront something almost every man feels but rarely admits. Every man secretly wants to feel important. But few realize that true importance is earned through responsibility, not attention. Jung introduced the concept of archetypes. Archetypes are universal patterns of behavior and symbolism that exist in what he called the collective unconscious. They are psychological blueprints shared across cultures and generations. One of the most powerful archetypes for men is the hero. The hero represents courage, sacrifice, discipline, resilience, and transformation through struggle. The hero is not the man who avoids fear. He is the man who walks toward it voluntarily. But here is the uncomfortable truth about modern life. Comfort has weakened the hero in many men. When life becomes too easy, identity becomes fragile. When challenges are constantly avoided, psychological muscles never develop. When discomfort is numbed with distraction, growth is delayed indefinitely. The hero archetype is activated through voluntary hardship, through disciplined routines when you do not feel motivated, through confronting fears you have been postponing, through having difficult conversations instead of escaping them, through choosing long-term growth over short-term pleasure. The hero does not seek applause. He seeks expansion. He understands that struggle is not punishment. It is refinement. Every time you confront something difficult that you have been avoiding, you strengthen your inner hero. Every time you choose responsibility over excuses, your identity solidifies. Every time you finish what you started, your self-respect increases. Weak identity looks for shortcuts and external validation. Strong identity looks for growth and internal alignment. Personality development is not about appearing powerful in front of others. It is about becoming capable when no one is watching. Capability builds quiet confidence. And quiet confidence is magnetic because it does not beg for attention. It radiates certainty. 6. Meaning and responsibility. Here is a psychological truth that explains much of modern male dissatisfaction. The reason many men feel empty is not because they lack pleasure. It is because they lack meaning. Jung believed that meaning is essential for psychological stability. Without meaning, success feels hollow. Money feels temporary. Status feels addictive but never satisfying. Pleasure becomes a distraction rather than fulfillment. A man can have comfort, entertainment, and freedom, yet still feel restless inside, because meaning is not found in consumption. It is found in responsibility. Responsibility to your craft. Responsibility to your family. Responsibility to your body. Responsibility to your word. Responsibility forces growth because it demands that you rise above laziness. It pushes you beyond emotional impulsivity. It demands discipline even when motivation fades. It builds structure into your life, and structure builds identity. When a man commits to something larger than himself, he becomes psychologically grounded. He wakes up with direction instead of confusion. He tolerates stress better because he sees it as part of a bigger mission. He stops overanalyzing minor inconveniences because his attention is anchored in something meaningful. Meaning organizes chaos. Without it, the mind drifts toward anxiety and self-doubt. A man without direction becomes psychologically unstable because he lacks orientation. He reacts to life instead of steering it. Find a responsibility that challenges you and stretches your limits. It could be mastering a skill, building a business, supporting your family, serving a cause, improving your physical strength. Then commit to it fully. Under sustained pressure, your identity begins to harden like steel forged in fire. Not brittle. Strong. 7. Build your personal myth. Now we arrive at the final principle, and it may be the most transformative. If you do not consciously choose the story of your life, society will choose it for you. Jung believed that human beings are storytelling creatures. We understand ourselves through narrative. We interpret our past, justify our present, and imagine our future through stories. The problem is that many men live inside unconsciously written narratives. The victim story, where everything is someone else's fault. The overlooked story, where talent is never recognized. The average story, where safety is prioritized over greatness. The safe story, where risks are avoided at all costs. These narratives quietly shape decisions. They influence confidence. They determine risk tolerance. They define self-worth. But a strong identity is built by consciously creating a personal myth. A personal myth is not fantasy. It is the narrative framework you choose to live by. It answers powerful questions. Who am I becoming? What do I stand for? What kind of man am I when tested? What principles will I never compromise, even under pressure? When you consciously design your life story, your actions begin aligning with that narrative. You stop reacting passively to circumstances. You start shaping them. Instead of seeing yourself as unlucky, you see yourself as a warrior in training. Instead of seeing failure as humiliation, you see it as initiation. Instead of seeing rejection as proof of inadequacy, you see it as redirection toward alignment. Instead of seeing struggle as unfair, you see it as preparation. Identity is not discovered once in a single moment of clarity. It is built repeatedly through choices, through habits, through disciplined behavior, through integrity when no one is watching. When your story becomes intentional, your personality becomes coherent. And coherence creates presence. Presence commands respect without demanding it. Personality development is not about adding impressive traits to your surface. It is about integrating the parts of yourself you have ignored. The psychology of Carl Jung teaches that strength does not come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from becoming whole. When you understand your persona, you stop performing for approval. When you integrate your shadow, you gain control over your darker impulses. When you individuate, you develop inner authority. When you integrate your anima, you build emotional intelligence. When you activate your hero archetype, you cultivate courage through action. When you embrace responsibility, you create meaning that stabilizes your life. When you build your personal myth, you solidify a coherent identity. This video covered 7 powerful psychological principles for building a strong masculine identity from the inside out. If you apply even one of these principles deeply and consistently, your personality will begin shifting from fragile to grounded, from reactive to intentional, from externally validated to internally stable. This is not about becoming louder. It is about becoming deeper. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Cognitive Crown. Because here, we do not chase surface-level motivation. We build psychological strength. And if you stayed until the end, comment the word whole. Because that is the goal. Not perfection. Wholeness. I will see you in the next video.